It was a nearly identical repeat of what happened last time Israelis went to the polls. In April, no party was able to get a majority of seats, and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu was given the uphill task of forming a unity government. Now, more than a week after the September 17 poll, Israel is stuck in political limbo, just like it was nearly 6 months ago. Netanyahu, already battling corruption charges, has been tasked by President Reuven Rivlin to form a government. An earlier meeting between Netanyahu and Benny Gantz, the leader of the Blue and White Party, failed to produce a coalition. So now, Gantz is waiting on the sidelines for his own chance should the prime minister fail. A rare endorsement for Gantz by a coalition of Arab parties who finished third in the election did little to change the political stalemate gripping Israel. So is Israel headed for a third election? Can Israel's longest-serving prime minister hang on to his political life? To answer that, joining me now is Salih Bicakci, who is the Vice Dean of International Relations at Kadir University, based in Istanbul, and Hasan Imran, who is the Executive Director of One Justice, a Paris-based legal aid organization. Gentlemen, welcome to Straight Talk. It's good to have you here. So this is the second election in 6 months, and the results are quite the same. So, Salih, do you believe Prime Minister Netanyahu will be able to form a unity government this time? What are his chances?
I mean, it's so delicate. It's not clear-cut. Now the Likud and the Kahol Lavan, which is the blue and white, has been talks going on in the morning. And everyone has each side of discussions. One of the biggest problem, some major parties are not asking the ultra-Orthodox Jewish parties shouldn't be joined to the government. And the other, Netanyahu, has also claimed the Gantz, not the Arabic unity list, has to be joined the problem. So all historical and societal problems of the election still going on. As I don't know if you know it, but throughout the history of the Israeli political system, there is not one government. There are always coalitions. Mm-hmm. And in coalitions, some minor parties are taking the king's role and uniting the whole system and getting the 61 seats, which makes them the government.
So, Hasan, how do you think Gantz differentiated himself from Netanyahu during the election campaign, and how, in reality, he is different than him?
Actually, he tried to differentiate himself, not that he differentiated himself from Netanyahu. Netanyahu has presented himself as a clear-cut, as a very obvious right-wing extremist leader. He was even okay with the Kahanist Jewish party that was even, like the founding movement of that party was banned in Israel, and he welcomed them in his cabinet in the April Knesset. Right now they failed. So Netanyahu has presented himself in a very clear way. Gantz, who's a general who said, and I quote what he said, "I sent back certain parts of Gaza to the Stone Age." So this general, he's trying to present himself as a centrist leader who can unite what's left of the left in Israel and certain less extremist right-wing parties within Israel. That's what he's trying to present himself and differentiate himself from Netanyahu. That's why some people were kind of more positive about Gantz coming into the scene. But after some time during his campaign, things were quite clear that this guy is not offering anything substantially different from Netanyahu. Settlements, he's totally okay with them.
He was talking about peace, and Netanyahu said he's weak because he's talking about peace.
Actually, that's quite ironic within Israel. If you talk about peace, you're portrayed as someone who's weak. Actually, Gantz is not weak, but there's a fundamental issue with measuring the state of the candidate itself from his positions. Right now, Netanyahu is not the problem as many people try to portray him. He's a symptom of the problem. And Gantz, no matter what his personal beliefs are, cannot change the situation unless he makes some serious sacrifices. The main stances of Gantz, besides talking about peace, are the same like Netanyahu. Jerusalem, he accepted annexing Jerusalem like any other mainstream political party in Israel. Settlements, the position is the same.
Those are the red lines, I understand.
Basically, the major issues that like when we speak of peace, we're speaking about certain issues.
So, Salih, what happens if Netanyahu fails to form a government?
After the 28 days, then the president has to give the Gantz, and the Gantz has to try for 23 weeks again. And there is also possibility to have an extension for the 2 more weeks on both sides. And if they couldn't, there is a chance to give in to the third party to establish the government.
So who he will be reaching out if Gantz is tasked
Now
with?
The Likud and the Likud list is a little bit problematic. And when they make a meeting with the Likud, they have saying that we are no problem with the Likud, but we have also no personal animus with the Bibi Netanyahu. But the problem is he's corrupted. So they are on the deal. They want to continue with Likud and form a big major unity government, which is supported by all Israeli voters. But the problem is without Netanyahu. The problem that the Hasan talk is really is there, but the problem is also popularization and the rising of the right-wing parties in all over Israel. And Israel is demanding
All over the world, maybe.
all over the world, but Israel is now, we have seen, is on the threshold. They want to change, and all polls are showing the change.
So Israel's Arab politicians and their almost quarter a century of non-involvement, and they endorsed Benny Gantz. Was this a mistake?
I hope it doesn't turn out to be a huge mistake for them. But Ayman Odeh, the head of the joint list, has said that we are endorsing him to topple Netanyahu.
Yes.
And I personally have a fundamental issue with portraying Netanyahu as the sole problem. He's just a symptom of it. That's very dangerous. But for Ayman Odeh and for the joint list, the Arab list, the Palestinian Arab list in the Knesset, for them, toppling Netanyahu is the top priority. Then they will look at the other aspects of racism within the society and within the Knesset and the basic law itself. But I am afraid that Gantz cannot afford to have an Arab party with him in the Knesset, in the cabinet. He would lose his bloc. His bloc would break up if he unites. I hope to be hopeful, but like right now the situation is a little bit not promising.
I think we have to divide the issue into two phases. I mean, from the Oslo agreement, the Palestinians who are in the national authority places and the Arab Israelis who are inside the Israel are the two different notions. Because the turnout of the votes now for unity party of the Arab list is 60%. We haven't seen this turnout throughout the history, and this is a big hope, and it's going to change. But do not forget that there is a one party, which is Balat, is now making problems with the unity list. And
three of its members, right?
Yeah, and that is the biggest problem that we have seen on the list, that it will be a problem. And the presence of the Arabs in the list with the deal with the Gantz is also gives a tool leverage for the Netanyahu. And I said you see, the Gantz is making a coalition with Arabs, so it's going to be an Arab coalition, and it will change everything, because Netanyahu really likes to show everything as a problem of a security. And that is what he wants to do. And now,
how about moderate Israelis?
I mean, Israelis are not happy, I'm sure about it, and that is the biggest risk for it, because they don't want to go with the Netanyahu, not because of a Netanyahu and Likud, but because of the corruption cases that he had it. And secondly, also his coalition with the different Middle Eastern countries, like in Saudi Arabia coalition, what he has seen, and also their coalition with Hungary and Egypt. This is really problematic for international area now to Netanyahu to continue the system. Israel has to change it. And there's also financial problems, which I'm not sure if people are following, but the Minister of Foreign Affairs just called off the strike. They're on the strike because they don't have a budget throughout the times. And Netanyahu government is just beyond the lake. And this plague that they have continuing from the 7th of April to today is the really risk. And if there is a third election comes up,
there's also that risk
too. Hopeless risk problem for Israel.
So Hasan, if Gantz becomes prime minister, what do you think will be the fate of the peace process?
I think he would do the same like what Olmert did. He would invite the Palestinians into negotiations, but tell them, hey guys, Jerusalem is off the table. Forget about the refugees. West Bank, now we cannot dissolve the settlements, but we can speak about few kilometers here and there, few natural resources. Basically, what's left of the peace process right now is how this Palestinian autonomy would look like. No one speaks about an independent Palestinian state, and it's not physically possible with the current organization of settlements. If you look at it, it looks like cantons, like isolated islands.
Yes.
So how can you have a state with isolated islands?
So the prime minister actually, he promised that he'll annex large parts of the West Bank if he's elected again.
He already did. I mean, there is a
So
one.
it's not a big promise?
if you ask me, I'm not sure what Hasan will say, but in my opinion, the settlements is really problematic. And even in this point, there is no peace process possible to continue because all Arab villages has been shattered down and their fields are shattered down. And to take it down is really hard position, which we have seen in Gaza or near Gaza settlements. So there is a right-wing party, we have no hope for it. I mean, always right-wing parties has done something. If Gantz could do something for the settlements, I'm not sure. But if someone has a power to stop, to make more settlements, that is even as a profit for the peace process. That is what I can say.
So it seems the stalemate will continue for a while, and we'll have to wait and see.
So
We're out of time, gentlemen. Thank you very much for joining me on Straight Talk.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it a lot.
Thank you.